Hello, and welcome to the Friday morning version of Over Coffee. Today is Friday, March 12th. Yes, we're already in March. And welcome you to join us. I believe this weekend, John, we turn the clocks ahead.
Joey, that's this weekend already?
Yeah, I believe it is. I will double check, but that's what I heard.
I mean, it's been getting brighter.
Uh, well, yes. It starts this weekend. Is the weekend that we lose an hour of sleep.
Oh, that sucks.
Saturday overnight, you will turn your clocks ahead by 1 hour. Saturday/Sunday morning at 1 a.m. It will become 2 a.m. magically. Nothing in the world will have changed except you still have to get up at the same time.
No, if anything, you'll get up. Well, you'd get at the same time according to your. Trying to think how to describe it. Trying to like. Okay, nothing will change other than we've decided for some reason that time has moved forward, even though it really hasn't.
So, in other words, nothing will have changed except that you still need to get up at the same time.
But you get an hour less sleep.
Right. Right. Nothing will have changed. Nothing will have changed in the world. Your schedules don't change. Nothing. We just snatch an hour.
Time
Take it back.
travel.
Doug.
So I am joined by my co-hosts John and Doug. No Dave today, so that means no one arguing to get into to do the news.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Which means you may not get any news today.
That means I get to talk even louder.
Oh my god, oh my god. That's why I texted Doug to make sure he was coming.
Uh,
No, I'm good. It's good. So, a couple of things we could talk about, John. I know we can segue into everything, but we had a good conversation on Monday, and we didn't talk about that on Wednesday. I was too I was too steamed about the arena, and I'm still contemplating what to do about that situation. But I am going to do something. Um, so Monday we had a good conversation, and I like the ideas for the new show. And while we don't know the exact format, we will be video game streaming on Saturday night and rotating the players and possibly the game. I mean, we don't know the exact format, not layout, but little C is going to participate, and so is my daughter. She likes the idea.
Oh, I got some fun news that's somewhat related because of your daughter and because we're missing Dave. I read an article earlier this week that apparently Roblox
Oh yeah,
went publicly traded. I was
yeah.
I was debating on actually buying some stock on it just out of curiosity, but I feel it's one of those things where I don't know. I think like Roblox is going to be around, but it's probably not going to be any bigger than it is right now. It's just going to be like consistent in the way that certain MMOs surprise you with how consistent they're still doing.
Yeah, so I could be wrong on this. I could, but I think that Roblox. I think now that Roblox is public, it may actually hurt Roblox in the short term.
Because they might
Um,
make decisions.
well, it's not a very secure platform, and it caters to children. So, I think that's going to have to get shored up. But it's not. They're not going to do anything about it until the complaints start coming out. Before the complaints were all private, and you can kind of say, "Oh, well, we didn't build the game," because I'm talking from personal experience. We didn't build the game. You got to talk to them. That's no longer going to be acceptable. Roblox is the face. It is up front. When people have a problem with Adopt Me or one of the games because of content or something that happened, they're going to go to Roblox, and Roblox will not be able to go, that's not us, that's them. So I think one of two things. If they ignore that aspect, there's going to be problems. Or they may clamp down and put greater restrictions on the games that are being developed. And that's okay too. You know, uh, basically they're a big giant Lego platform that allows users to build their own games. That's what they are.
Do they have ads in game? Do they have like in-game ads?
No, no.
That's something I could envision with. Like, I feel like
That's gonna happen. That's gonna happen next.
So it's possible, but they already have their microtransactions.
Yeah, but like you'd be surprised.
No,
Like,
no, 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 no. I would not be surprised. I agree with you.
Yeah, plenty of criticism labeled at big, AAA games like sports titles that still have, that have, the whole thing, DLC, downloadable content, all that stuff, and yet at the same time, they, still wedge ads in.
Yep. Yep. So, John, that brings us to you.
So, okay, let me talk about a couple of things, and I'll catch Doug up to speed. Doug, I had a conversation on Wednesday that you want to around for. On Tuesday, I watched on Netflix an episode of that new Pacific Rim show. Pacific Rim an animated show. It's called Pacific Rim: The Black, and it's CGI, but it's made to look like anime-esque.
Right.
And I watched the first episode, and it didn't really like jump out to me, for like for different reasons. I was asking the guys their input, and they didn't really watch it until I tried throwing like some kind of like,
John,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah,
I
your
can't
mic
understand
is you're in and out.
it's probably the Bluetooth. Hold on, let me.
Dave has joined us.
Yay.
Oh, and now all of a sudden my Zoom call is much louder. So something in terms of switching over now made the Zoom thing significantly better.
Oh
So,
yeah, we can hear you
Oh,
now.
that's better.
I was watching Pacific Rim, and I wasn't really impressed. And we were talking about it on Wednesday, and I said that as a way of kind of comparing things, I asked Rich and Dave if they had seen like any of the Star Wars CGI cartoons.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched the first first season and a half of the Clone Wars,
Same.
and I thought that I'm still like going through it. I thought it's nice. It's really it's meant for kids, but there's some aspects to it that make me nostalgic, obviously, for the Star Wars universe.
Well, the Pacific Rim show, like content-wise, it's actually skewing much more adult. Like there's not like there's anything hardcore in it, but it has a lot more mature themes. But the animation quality, it's kind of a little cheap. Like I basically said, it looks like a PlayStation 2 cutscene. And I compared it to a lot of earlier CGI shows that somehow just were more fluid in their motion and whatnot. And I challenged Dave and Doug to watch an episode of Reboot this weekend.
Dave and Doug.
I'm sorry, Dave and Rich.
What's Reboot?
Reboot, the CGI show from the 90s. You never heard of it? That's from the guys who did Beast Wars.
I don't watch a lot of cartoons.
See, he calls them cartoons, not CGI or animation.
Even when I was a kid, I didn't watch a lot of cartoons.
So Dave is talking about. We said that these shows are generally not called cartoons; they're generally called, CGI when it's all CGI. And
I was saying I think the general population calls them animated.
Yeah, they're. I mean,
they could, but Doug is not nearly. I don't think you could take Doug and say we have the average sample.
No, he's an irregular sample.
I mean, oh God, Dave, let's not talk about irregular samples right now. I mean, it really comes down to like your references. Lots of people like that. A normal populace would probably want it, but probably, in my opinion, would probably say cartoons.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's why Dave jumped in like that.
Yeah, because you called it cartoon, and that was what we were talking about on Wednesday. That's okay. Go ahead, continue, John or Doug or whoever's talking.
I mean, if you think about it though, like animation in the originality was a cartoon. So even if we're gonna say it's an animated show, someone could slang it, I guess, right, and say cartoon.
Did you say
Yes.
slang?
Slang.
Yeah,
The street
it's
lingo. Street lingo calls it cartoons.
yeah, it's 2021. Like cartoons aren't cartoons anymore; they're animated specials. So now we have to slang them into cartoons.
Somebody needs to be corrected.
No, John's not wrong. Are you saying John or you mean Doug?
Doug.
Why?
He needs to be corrected.
Don't worry, Doug. I'm in your camp. I would never.
What was
I'm
that?
sorry, I couldn't
I would
hear
never
you,
call it
John.
CGI.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm not.
Anyway, but the point is that I challenged Rich and Dave to watch an episode this weekend, just to kind of. Well, actually, I asked them to watch both, to watch the Pacific Rim show and to watch Reboot, which would take maybe at most about an hour. But the thing is that I found that the first episode, the pilot episode, is on YouTube last night. It's one of those things where Shout Factory has the rights now. So they have it on their YouTube channel where they're promoting a lot of their own content and promoting like the DVD box set of the show.
Hmm.
Okay.
And I'm not gonna lie, the first episode is a bit rough. Like, as somebody who's watched the show a lot more as a kid, I think it definitely kind of like strains itself out in later seasons, or at least in later episodes. But the first episode's more like a proof of concept of like, we're gonna do a little bit of world building. We're gonna show what the show can do, but animation's a little bit jerky, and the writing's just not exactly there yet. But I don't know. There's still elements about that first episode that I think I liked better than the Pacific Rim show.
Okay.
But we'll
Should
see
be
what
able to
everybody
do
else
something.
thinks this weekend.
But Reboot
What's
was made in the 90s.
Reboot was made by, I forget exactly what the name of the company is. I think it was like Raindrop or something like that. It's the CGI studio that did a lot of the CGI Beast Wars shows.
Oh, you mean all those cartoons in the 90s? Got it.
I think they also did the Dire Straits video, I think.
Gotcha. So what you're saying is you're happier with a cartoon that came out 20-something plus years ago.
It's not that I'm happier. It's just that like what it tries to do is more lively than this Netflix show. But a lot of that could be because of budgetary reasons. Like, it could be that the reason why the Netflix show looks a bit stilted could be that, like, they might have a much smaller budget than this other show did. But it's hard to know for sure,
Just like Starship Troopers 3.
Oh God! Don't even talk about that.
I just did. It's too late.
I didn't know that they came out with 3 Starship Troopers. I saw the first one. I mean, for what it was, I thought it was entertaining. The first.
Oh,
one.
I like the first one. I thought the first one was entertaining, but 3 was straight to garbage. I mean, it was you didn't even get to see the bugs. You only like an arm at one point.
Yeah, no,
What, it was about,
it's
about
bad.
characterization.
It's like when B movies go bad.
It's when
And
B
it's
movies become D movies.
There was an F movie. What are you talking about?
I didn't even know there was B, C, and D movies.
I mean,
Neither did I.
Yeah.
Well, it's like anytime you have a continuation of a major franchise where none of the original people come back. And I'm
that's
not talking
not
about
true.
the actors, because you might get lucky and rope in 1 or 2 people from the movies, but I'm saying like the director's not involved, the art, like the studio's not involved. It's like completely divorced from everything else.
In Starship Troopers case, it was like, well, we want to continue the story, so let's go to a completely new studio. Oh, the studio only has like 1/20th of the budget that we originally had of our first movie, or 1/50th of the budget we had for our first movie. All right, let's do it.
And they only have one stage in one room, and it's 20 foot by 20 foot.
Yeah, and what's his face came back? What's his name? I forget
I don't.
The what's his name? Jason Van Diem?
it. Not Jason. It's not his name. It's
Or whatever his name is. I don't remember his exact name. They didn't get Neil Patrick Harris.
No.
no.
No, he was going to White Castle at that point.
Yeah, MPH is on his way to White Castle.
I have sort of a semi-related question.
Okay.
Like right now, a lot of my friends are watching The Expanse on Amazon.
Love that show.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, I don't have Amazon.
Oh my God! Why don't you have Amazon? First of all,
Because I don't order that much online, so there's no point in me paying $100+ a year for nothing. But here's a question for you though. Do you think there'll be a streaming service at some point in the future that will take all these old shows, buy them off of their original platforms, so that other people like me who never had Amazon could watch The Expanse?
No, Amazon actually owns The Expanse. They bought it and paid for the new seasons.
So do you think they'll come out with a DVD or downloadable? Like I pay $5, so let's say 2 years from now, I pay $5 or $10 and I can watch it.
You can go buy the DVD on Amazon now.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah.
Or instead of spending $60 on a couple seasons of 5 seasons of, or like whatever it's going to be, you could just spend $100
and get free shipping for a year for the 6 items I'll buy.
Right.
It's actually more than that. So there's a couple of things here, Dave. But I won't go into all of it because if someone doesn't want to get Amazon Prime, that's it's perfectly fine. But if you want to overpay for everything, and that's also perfectly fine. But
well, I feel there's a dig in there somewhere. Go ahead.
No, nothing. But you could save shipping on anything you buy. Those 6 items. Those 6 items will probably come out to $40 to $50 of shipping. Just throwing that out there.
Well, the last 6 items I bought on Amazon, like 3 of them I qualified for free shipping anyway. But go ahead.
And then they must have been expensive. So and then the other thing is you're also getting a streaming service. They have a large library.
Huge.
They have a large library of things.
You can see it from space.
Maybe.
But if I get another streaming service, I have HBO, I have Netflix.
Well, you can consolidate.
I have Disney Plus. If I get another streaming service, it'll cut into my Twilight 2000 role-playing game time.
You know what? You can afford that.
Yeah, definitely. You should also, first of all, Tolkien. They have a Tolkien show coming out on Amazon. You're not going to be able to watch that anywhere else.
They also have Wheel of Time coming out on Amazon.
What was the show, Doug? Your volume, at least I'm driving in the car, so my volume may not be the best. What was the show you said it's also coming out on Amazon?
It's a Tolkien show. It's like it's almost, I don't remember if it's a prequel or a continuation of the Lord of the Rings series / Hobbit series. I forget what the written up was, but it's, no, wait, actually, sorry. I think it's a prequel back into the First Age or whatever.
Okay. Oh.
Yes. So it's good. I think, as much as, all right, so I really enjoyed the Lord of the Rings series, but it really dragged on, in my opinion, on a screen. Rather, on a book, it's a lot better, but on a screen, it dragged on a little bit. But I loved it. I thought it was a cinematic masterpiece. But I can't wait for the show because I think it's going to be phenomenal. So.
Oh, okay.
When Wheel of Time TV series 2021.
You looking for a premiere date?
Yes, I am.
So I jumped in. I'm so sorry. I came to the show late. What was John's initial topic that he was talking
about? John was initially talking about, I don't remember what John was initially talking about. He was talking about reboot and Doug.
I was talking about how I watched that episode just kind of in advance of you guys watching it this weekend. But also at the same time, before the show, I was talking with Rich about a conversation I had online with friend Mike and Jonah about a couple of different things. One of which being that and it coincided with a tweet that I read this morning that was kind of funny, that in the amount of time since they left screwing up the show, those two D&D guys, not Dungeons and Dragons, but the guys who did Game of Thrones, haven't done anything new when they could have instead spent that time not screwing up D&D. I mean, not screwing up Game of Thrones.
Right. Okay. Well, I think, when you have Hollywood writers writing, this is just a massive generalization, but when you have Hollywood writers writing instead of, the initial creative, person, they need to, compartmentalize things into a, beginning, a middle, and an end, a climax and an end. I don't know.
Yeah, but I can't buy that as an excuse. I mean, you're hiring writers, right? And unlike an author, like I know maybe an author may be a special case where they have an awesome series and they put it together, but you have a room of writers usually.
Yeah.
For a show. Not one of them is the continuity guy, or not one of them can turn around and go, I don't know if that's going to make any sense, and here's why.
But it's not even that. It's the idea that they wanted to do. They were like, we're making the most popular show on television right now. It's giving us so much clout to be able to do anything with our careers once this is done. You know what? Why don't we just literally spike the ball nowhere near the end zone just so we can move on to do the next thing? Meanwhile, like the game's still going, and like you haven't won yet. I hope that analogy makes sense. But it's like, yeah, they were very renowned and extremely popular at the time, but their decision to essentially, end the franchise, and not even so much that like if that's what George R. R. Martin intended, like, whatever, but to essentially underdevelop the ending in such a way that it came off as rushed and it came off as like unfulfilling because everybody had to act so differently and the show kind of had to wedge itself into such a narrow space to fit the ending that they had shaped. That how do they not anticipate that there'd be massive backlash at themselves, at HBO, that has now essentially like poisoned the franchise? Like if HBO was to try to do a new Game of Thrones thing, people aren't going to care. Our friend Mike, Mike's argument was that in the pandemic, HBO would have probably loved if Game of Thrones was this renowned thing that people would be diving to watch Game of Thrones and watching it during the pandemic, instead of just being this thing that ended that nobody really cares about. Like people aren't really going back to Game of Thrones.
Right. People are not going back to watch because of the disappointment of season 8. If that's what I'm understanding you're saying, they're not going back to watch season 1 again.
Right, because it's not going anywhere.
Actually,
that it's ultimately going to be unfulfilling because at the end of the day,
I would watch season 1 again because Sean Bean.
What did Doug say?
He would watch season 1 again.
Only because of Sean Bean, and then maybe the Red Wedding episode, and that's literally the only thing I would watch from Game of Thrones. That's it.
I was always saying that because of they needed to end the series. I think sort of in line with what John is saying. They needed to end the series, that they had to wrap up 75 storylines that were hanging out there.
It was awful. Let's not talk about it.
But the thing is, there was no reason to end the way that it did. Like, not necessarily talking about like the actual ending of what occurred, but they had plenty of time. HBO was more than willing to just hurl money at them. George was willing to like kind of feed them the ending, and everybody was like, "Look, this might take like maybe like 2 or 3 more seasons." And like, no, we can wrap it up in 1. And everyone's like, why don't you just spend more time and develop it? And like, no, we want to move on to other stuff. So let's just blast our way through this.
Now,
who cares how it ultimately ends up?
I don't want to give away. I don't want to give away any spoilers. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to give away any spoilers. You've all seen it.
Seen what?
Yeah.
Seen the end of Game of Thrones?
It's too late for spoilers. You can just talk about what you want. We're past the timeline.
Okay. So I was thinking that there was one scene that I would have changed, that I would have felt so much happier happier about when
Just one.
Danny and John were in the room at the end. If John, stabs Danny, that because of Danny's character change and because of the betrayal and all that other stuff, that Danny also pulled out a dagger and killed John, and they both died. That would have been I think, a more decent Game of Thrones ending.
Daenerys stabbing our beloved John? No.
No.
Just a thought.
No.
That is a cartoon ending.
I think ultimately,
Yeah,
like,
John
people
can't die
upset-
twice. Zynar says John can't die twice.
Yeah. They already killed him. He's undead.
I think the problem was them abandoning stuff early on. Like, Mike has said it. Like, and it's
Like
stuff that
logic.
them. Well, no,
Like,
like
what?
things that were important to the end of the movie, like, and maybe they did it for budgetary reasons, maybe they did it for who knows why, but the fact that they made the show less and less fantastical, so that, like, by the time it's like, oh no, these giant spears are the only things that can kill dragons, and like, they only get one of them, or they get two of them, and then no, it wasn't even the spears. The spears got one dragon. The Night King got the other one. I forgot about that. It's just ultimately like, so I'm kind of like moving around, so I'm losing focus. The point is that even if George said,
that has nothing to do with you moving around.
shut up. Even if George said that the book ends with John killing Daenerys, and like, Daenerys ultimately losing sight of what she was ultimately trying to do to be just as bad, there's a better way to do it than just saying, oh, it happens on the turn of a hat,
I mean, it could.
Well, yeah, I don't know. We could get into a whole episode or on just bad stuff,
Or just Game of Thrones.
just like the entire series was fought over reuniting the whole kingdom, and then to throw everything away in that last 15 minutes discussion with all the kings at the end is just stupid.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, book one,
Fairy tale.
book one, season one, when George R. R. Martin wrote the original book, it's its whole thing on its own. It's when you get into season 2 and season 3 and season 4, things start to expand. But really, book one, I'm sure George R. R. Martin wrote it not knowing if it would be popular or not. So it is its own book. It's a murder mystery. Who killed John Arryn? That is the book one. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end, a conclusion, full conclusion, full stop. You don't need to do anything else. But of course, then the book became a New York Times bestseller, so he decided to continue the series.
Somebody who critiqued the show, who I watched the video on, said that one of the interesting things about the series as a whole is it went out of its way, or at least the books and the earlier seasons did, to show the ramifications of what everyone's like machinations had for the general public. Like, it wasn't just like people acting like cartoon characters. It's like, no, if you're gonna do something that like could be bad, it's gonna have major ramifications. Like, it's gonna have bad results for a lot of people. And later seasons kind of got away from that. Like, oh, like even like when they're talking at the end about how like, oh, we might starve, so that's why we really kind of need, Daenerys. It's like, oh no, we actually had plenty of food. It wasn't a big deal, Or like, oh, we need King's Landing, and it's like we really need the dragons. There's no way we'll be able to do it without it. It's like, no, we actually managed to take it pretty easily enough. Like, yeah, having the dragon help, but like it doesn't look like it was that tough of a fight to begin with. Oh, the night. Just a bunch of other things, like the fact that like even Dawn, like a whole country basically got like cut out from the show, and like all the whatever would have happened with that just had like zero impact or would have went nowhere. Is like at least originally the show made an attempt to show that people can't just make crazy decisions, that there would be fallout, that people would be affected. And it's less likely that, let's say, some mystical thing would come up and they'd get their repercussions. No, they get executed by the common folk. Like, the townsfolk would be just as likely to go after the regular people as like their enemies would if they're starving to death. It's kind of like
Right.
why the scene when Cersei is walking through King's Landing after trying to manipulate the church and they spin it around on her. It's significant because you just see how much everybody there just hates her and like nobody respects her and like everybody's just gunning for her. So you see just how light of a hold she really has.
Right.
Oh,
gonna-
white of a what?
A light of a hold.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
go.
So, all right, Dave, since you're here, you can take us home.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks everybody for joining us. And I wasn't watching chat at all. So if anybody was chatting, thank you for joining us too. Hope you get a chance to watch this later on Twitch or YouTube. And we really appreciate all of the comments and the discussion, and best of luck to you guys for the weekend. Have a good time and good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bye-bye.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Meh.